What's up there, SEO pros? I'm here with Dave Shrein from Shrein Media. And Dave is an online entrepreneur who was telling me more specifically what he does for his businesses. And Dave, why don't you clue us in on that?
Yeah, man. So like you said, I'm an online entrepreneur. And what I do, what I specialize in, what my life's passion is, what I work hard towards is coming alongside helping entrepreneurs just get unstuck from all of that other stuff that prevents them from launching and monetizing online. There's the idea that you have of, this is what I do. This is how I'm going to be able to help people. This is what I'm going to be able to contribute. And when you start to implement that online using web, email, and social, you find out there's all this other things. Like you never thought you were going to have to learn about SEO. You never didn't even know what that was. You never thought you were going to have to find social media scheduling tools. You never thought you were going to have to learn how to work iMovie. And all of a sudden, all this stuff comes in, steals your passion, steals your joy, steals your momentum. And you have all of these other things that come in between you and earning income. So I help entrepreneurs bypass all of that and just get straight to earning income, getting their product, their service out there and marketing it right away.
Nice. So what's a common theme you see with most people who confront you about these sort of things? What do you usually tell those people?
Well, first and foremost, the biggest issue is people working in silos, people doing everything by themselves, people who have absolutely no experience trying to do online business, stepping into online business. People want to pay a huge, stupid tax. And so rather than going out and getting education like they would if they were going to go get a job, say, as a real estate agent, or getting education if they were going to go get a job, say, as a doctor, they think, oh, there's no expertise involved in website, email, social media. Anybody can do it. And that's when they go out and they start wasting time. And if there's one thing that nobody can get back, it's time. I've learned how to make money. I can decide today how to make money, but I haven't learned how to make more time. So that's the biggest issue that I encounter is people go out there and they just work in a silo. They just hunker down, they drink their own Kool-Aid, and then they don't figure out how to get other people to understand, hey, this Kool-Aid's really, really good. You should try it too. So that's one of the big problems that I run into. And the other problem that I run into is people are perfectionists. They have this vision inside their brain that it has to be A through Z, done 100%. There's no room for improvement. It has to be completely finished and perfect, when that's just it's not a reality. And I'm not saying it's not a reality because they can't get there. I'm saying it's not a reality because perfection is a moving target. What's perfect for me, I think it's absolutely fantastic, 100% done. I show it to somebody else. It would have been done 3 months ago because their level of understanding for whatever it is your product or service is like at a 20. And your understanding is at 100.
Here's the thing, though, Dave, is you really have a unique touch. I mean, even from your background with those little potted plants or whatever that is, I mean, you obviously have a view on things that, is unique. I mean, I was looking at your own stuff, too. Your website's very clean. You have a very, a nice theme. So how do you kind of, sculpt something like that without being kind of almost perfectionist about it?
Just start with what the value is, man. Nobody gives a rip about what things look like, just so as long as it works. Now, making it look nicer helps, but good marketing makes bad products fail fast, right? Good marketing amplifies good products to success. A good product is a good product. So whatever it is you have, if it's good, it's going to sell, whether it's a PDF document or whether it's a full 55 video course. If it's good, if it's valuable, if you're really delivering what it is people want, it doesn't matter what it looks like, so to speak. Got to make sure that it's clear, got to make sure that it's clean, got to make sure that it communicates, but you don't have to have this $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 marketing strategy put in place if you know what you have is valuable. And the way you test that is you try to sell it before you ever create it. And if you can sell it before you create it, there's a market for it.
But I feel like one of the big things for that, Dave, is kind of something we were talking about before we actually got into this interview was how do you communicate to these people? So what would you give for tips for people on maybe being a little bit more understandable about what they're trying to present as their products?
Well, the first thing is nobody can see the forest for their trees when it comes to their own business. Everyone is blinded when it comes to their own business. Either one, they have no self-awareness about what their business is, what they do, and how they're being perceived by others. Or two, they have self-awareness, but they're just not interested in bringing in an outside perspective. If you go back through and listen to all of the people that you idolize, that you put on a platform, that you say, these people understand it, I guarantee you there will be a significant turning point in their business when they brought somebody else in to say, look, you can't see what everybody else sees when it comes to your business. Here's what they see. Here's how you transform it. And it comes down to creating a message that empathizes with the person who you really want to work with. So I don't want to work with everybody. There's a very specific person who I want to work with. So everything that I do is meant to meet that person's needs, scratch the itch, relieve the pain, whatever it is you want to say. But the tips for communicating really comes back to understanding, who do you want to work with and what is at the core of their problem? Like, what is it that you really need to provide that scratches an itch? And then once you figure that out, it becomes easy to talk about it and it becomes easy to clarify it and drill down on it.
Now, does that person change over time, or is it usually the same person throughout your career?
It can change over time and it can be the same. I mean, it really depends on how you evolve as a business. What typically happens in a lot of businesses is they start off delivering one thing, and over the course of the time, they realize that their niche, that their core, that their sweet spot is something completely different. And so you can completely shift your business. And, for instance, we never set out to start creating monthly social media for people. That was never in the cards. It was always advising people, and it was always building one-time campaigns. Well, we discovered we have a really great system, and we're really quite good. Me and my team, I've got 2 full-time people, me, one other person, and then I've got 2 part-timers. We're really good at creating month-to-month social media and growing organic reach over the course of a full year, 18 months, 24 months. So we kind of shifted our business model a little bit to accommodate that skill that we uncovered that we never intended to go after in the first place. And yeah, so it changes because the market for that is a lot different than the person who needs a website for the first time.
But what's important is that you identify what your market is, so at least you can start going in that direction instead of just being like, oh, I'm selling to everybody.
Yeah. If you try to sell to everybody, nobody's going to buy from you. The needs of somebody who's been in business for 30 years is completely different than the needs of someone who says they're running a business and they're really just hobbying about. Like, that's a completely different demographic. That's a completely different set of needs. So yeah, identify that type of person who you want to work with, but it will evolve over time. And as you get better at selling the few products or the few services that you have, you'll see those products and services evolve over time, as well as your client and the person who you're selling them to.
Right. So in terms of the marketing that you've been doing for yourself or for clients, what do you see working really well these days? Like visual content, maybe Facebook advertising with live video. What's been really kind of standing out for you lately?
Well, it just depends on the market, right? I have a health client, and video is not necessarily something that's easy to produce in a health market, and photos and things like that. It's a family practice. So it's really hard to get photos because people are very conservative about health. People are very private. People don't want people to know that they've been at the doctor's office. So some of the things that may work in another industry is harder to get to work in a separate industry. So it really comes down to identifying exactly what it is you're trying to go after. That said, video is huge, but the problem with video is not everyone's entertaining. Not everyone's able to capture someone's attention and keep that attention over the course of a 5, 10, 15, 20, 30-minute time span, depending on whatever it is you're live streaming. So live video isn't a win for everybody. A lot of people think they are entertaining. They're just not. It's really, really difficult to command people's attention to the extent that they'll actually make changes in their life based upon what you're saying over live streaming. But live streaming, that said, it is effective and it is incredibly impactful. It's been huge for my business. A lot of my sales have come through the live streaming channels, and that's my training side. So I have 2 sides to my business. I have a services side where we do it for you, and I have a training side where basically we take everything we do in the services side and teach people how to do it for themselves. So the services side, that's been huge. When it comes to social media, Facebook is still king. Now, there's all sorts of other players, and I think it's funny when someone says, well, I don't think my target market is on Facebook. Yeah, they're on Facebook. Everybody's on Facebook. Yeah. There's like 5 billion people or something like that on Facebook. The question you have to ask yourself is not, is my target market on Facebook? Because they are. It's, what is my target market doing on Facebook? Because a doctor isn't going to Facebook to get medical advice, but a doctor is going onto Facebook to relax, to see pictures of grandkids, to be entertained, to be amused, to check out for a few hours. So if your target is doctors, Facebook is a great place to reach them. You just have to go through and figure out and empathize with them and say, well, what are they trying to accomplish on Facebook those few hours of the week that they're on them? So live streaming's been great. Continuing to post on Facebook has been great. And then anything that's real life photography. I'm not talking iStockphoto.com, Getty Images, or even Unsplash. I'm talking real photos of a real story. If you can take a real photo, give it a real story as a caption, that's going to do wonders for expanding your reach and your authority online when it comes to social media in particular.
Okay, so one of the things that you were saying was like standing out. And so with all these 5 billion people on Facebook or wherever else they are on the
whatever
internet,
the number is, yeah.
What do you do to stand out? I see, and I actually was talking about this with somebody else a couple days ago, and we kind of what we've been seeing is like the whole Ty Lopez thing, where you have the phone, you're kind of looking at it from some random location, whether you're in the snow or wherever, and you start talking to these people, and then you drop the phone, and it's like supposed to be kind of quirky. It seems like that's kind of like what the theme is right now, to stand out, like to be more like authentic. What do you think?
Well, it depends on who you're trying to reach, man. I mean, I've seen Ty Lopez's stuff. I don't know the guy. I actually have no idea what he does. That doesn't mean that he doesn't do something valuable, but his brand is not for me. Like, I don't dig him, right? There's lots of people who do. I don't. And so when it comes back to me, I realize that the exact same thing is true about me. There's people who don't dig me. They watch my stuff. They think, oh, that guy's full of it, or that guy's lame, or I just don't like him, or he annoys me. That's fine. I mean, they're not for me. They're not the type of person who I'm trying to reach. They're fine. They're cool people, and I'm sure we would enjoy sitting down, sharing a hard cider together or something, right? But they're not the person who I'm after. So it really comes back to understanding who are you and who are you trying to reach, and speaking to those people and not trying to capture every single person in your sphere of, social media reach, but really honing in on the pain points of that person who you really, really want to work with. And that person that I really, really want to work with is that person who is 100% serious about their business. They're not afraid of investing money in their business. As a matter of fact, they've already invested 6 or 7 different ways in the last 6 or 7 months, and it just hasn't paid off for them. They haven't seen the returns on that investment. That's the type of person who I like coming alongside and saying, let's identify one product that you can sell, and then let's market the heck out of that thing. Let's promote it over and over and over. So I do think selfies are huge because people want to see you, but I think selfies with a story is even more powerful than just taking a selfie of you somewhere. I don't like manufactured authenticity. I think people can sniff that out, and the people who can't sniff it out aren't self-aware enough to know that the only person who's going to buy their stuff is their mom. So they're not the type of person who I'm after anyways. I'm after that person who loves my straightforwardness, who loves that I don't dink around, who loves that I have fun, who's cool with the fact that I believe in Jesus, who's cool with the fact that I work hard to pressure people who have said, I want that pressure, to pressure them and challenge them into getting real about who it is they're actually trying to reach and what it is they're actually trying to sell. People who don't want honest and challenging relationship is not a good fit for me. I like working with the people who are saying, no, like, I need you to challenge me to get the best out of me. That's really who I go after. And I create content around it. So it just comes back again to who do you want to reach? Then create content that's going to be compelling to them, not boring.
So like, what would you kind of give for tips for people, like, because my main audience, I know what it is, and it's between the ages of 25 to 45, and it's mainly men who are looking to start their businesses online or help other people with their businesses. What kind of information would you give for them in terms of like, what would they do to start moving in the right direction?
Pick one product and focus in on one product. Don't focus on 2. Don't focus on 3. Don't focus on 4. Don't focus on 1.5. Pick one thing that you want to sell. Why? Because you don't have the capacity to sell 2 things. It's hard enough to sell one thing. Do you ever see Coca-Cola putting Diet Coke and Coca-Cola in the same commercial? No, because it's hard enough to sell one thing, right? The Super Bowl, at the time of this recording, Super Bowl 51 was just yesterday. And if you noticed, it was not the Pepsi halftime show. It was the Pepsi Sugar Zero show or something like that. They didn't try to share it. The Pepsi and Diet Pepsi and Pepsi Sugar One, whatever it was called, halftime show. No, they picked one and they ran with it. That's what people need to do in online business. Pick one thing and market just that. Do not wait until your website's ready. Do not wait until you have a list of 1,000 people. Do not wait until you have a list of 500 people. Do not wait until your Twitter following is 200. Do not wait for anything. Identify the value and go out there and begin to sell it.
I love this
capacity to learn how to sell two things.
I love this because I experienced this so much, and it's like I can feel what you're saying because it's been like my life for 2 years. It's just like, look, you need to start moving in the right direction. And most people, they don't want to start doing anything. They just want to be like, well, you know, I need to get the website done and then I can start doing social media. And it's like, dude, look, you have a product. Why don't you start experimenting and start moving in the right direction, and things will start falling into place?
Yeah. If you don't start selling it, you're not going to get good at selling it. And if you try to sell 2, 3, 4 things, you're not going to get good at selling one thing. And if you go out there, you try to sell it, nobody buys it. One, that's on you. It's your fault that nobody bought it. So you either need to change your product or change your messaging. Go back out and try it again. If you give up after the first time you've tried to sell something online, you're never going to go back and get the benefit of the second and the third and the fourth time that you try to sell it, because it takes people a while, one, to trust you. It takes people a while to even understand what your product is. The second that you are blue in the face over talking about what your product is, that's the second that somebody is just their fingernails, their toenails haven't been trimmed, and they're just barely dipping that toenail into the water. Like they haven't even gotten their big toe into the water. They're just barely starting to understand what it is you're doing. I launched my most recent product in the January of 2016. Now I sold that product. I had $4,000 in sales without even creating it. So that was awesome. I loved that. But then I sold it again in April, and I generated another $7,000 in sales. And I sold it again in September. And the numbers, actually I sold it again in June, and I made another $5,000 in sales. And then I sold it again in September, and I made another $4,000 in sales. Then I sold it again in January, and I generated $12,000 in sales. If I had quit after the first time because $4,000 wasn't enough, I would have never been around to have capitalized on April, June, September, or January. I would have kissed all that income goodbye. And more importantly, I would have not been able to help the people that I've helped, right? I would have not been able to come alongside and coach those people to a point of just start making money, stop planning, and start monetizing. That's one of the things that makes me so sick. I go into these forums, these online forums where entrepreneurs go in and just have group therapy sessions talking about all the things that are wrong. And they quote on, you know, what program should I use for this? What program should I use for that? And if you go sign into any of those forums a year, 2 years, 3 years later, it's the same people talking about the same junk, saying, when I do X, then I will start to monetize. The second that I ditched that theory of I have to do these things before I monetize, that's when I started earning money.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I totally relate with that. And it seems like that's kind of one of the big things. It's like people are like, well, what's the best SEO tool because we talk a lot about SEO, you know, to scan your website, what's the best. And I actually made like top 29 SEO tools. And the first tool I was like, use your brain, because that's the thing that's going to actually help you accomplish the things that you need to accomplish, and stop relying on all these tools, quote unquote, to fix your problems. And this isn't even like, we could bring this to a whole nother level. This isn't even just like SEO or online marketing. This is just people in general. It's like, why do you start giving up on things that you want to do before you've even started doing them? So one of my questions was when do you start scaling? Because you were saying, you know, focus on one product for people who are, you know, kind of just starting out and they're looking to grow their businesses. But when do they start scaling? When do they start hiring people? When do they start doing all that stuff?
Well, that's a moving target. I don't think there's a, you know, if you start doing X, then you start doing Y. It's going to be a moving target for everybody. There's a lot of factors, and there's no way that we could wrap enough context around that question to actually identify a good set of do this. But here's some principles. First and foremost, you will never grow your business to scale if it's just you. You're going to be limited to whatever you're capable of producing, both intellectually and, you know, monetarily speaking, with your hands and your time. The second that you have enough money, banked up to support hiring somebody else on. If you have a model of how your business is going to scale, you got to have somebody who's already done it. Call it a business coach, call it a business mentor, call it a business trainer, call it a business, community group. I don't care, but you have to have somebody coming in and thinking through that stuff with you. I put my money where my mouth is. I'm not telling somebody to, one, do that and I haven't done it, or two, do that yet I charge people to do it. I actually went and I spent $10,000 in the fall of 2015, actually in November, the end of November 2015, to build out my business for 2016. And that day that I spent with my business coach generated probably somewhere between $40,000 and $50,000 in revenue. I spent $10,000 to do it, and the changes that I made generated between $40,000 and $50,000. I can go and I can point to where that money came in. I'm going to be doing that again this fall, right? Because I have to have somebody else come in and say, here is the way that you're going to scale based upon where you're at, where your products are, the money that you have, and where you say you want to go.
But Dave, how do you get this help from like maybe a mentor or a coach, or from like, other people to come in and help you as well? If like, for instance, you're starting a business and you don't have the money for that.
Find it. That's your problem. You have to figure it out. Nobody's going to come alongside. Like, I cannot give you a prescription and say, here's how you manifest $10,000 out of nothing. Like, there's no prescription for that. Figure it out, because if you don't, you're not going to make it. If you do, you're going to make it. So whether that's stop buying Xboxes, don't buy a new car. I sold my house. You figure it out. I have 2 kids and a wife. My boys at the time were less than a year old and just over 2. When I wanted to launch my business, I sold my freaking house and I went and I moved in with my parents for 9 months. Figure it out, because if you don't figure it out, if you're not willing to make those types of don't go drinking on Saturday nights. Save that $75 over the course of the next, 10 weeks. You got $1,000. Go get coaching for $1,000. Figure it out, because there's no prescription that says, here's how you get that money right away. Sacrifice. Don't do what everybody else is doing, and, get the money that you have to. I mean, does that make sense?
No, it totally makes sense. I mean, my question to that, Dave, is have you considered motivational speaking?
Yeah, man. I mean, that's what I do, right? Like, I bring entrepreneurs in to my coach. I have a course. It's called the Online Platform Launch Course. And what it's all about is getting entrepreneurs stuck and launching online. And they love it. They come through over and over and over and over. They come through. And I had one of my students come through. He's going through it right now in January. He sent me a message 2 weeks ago, and he says, I know that I'm not vocal in our calls, but you have to know that you're kicking my butt right now. And I know that that's what your intention is. I would have never hired my first full-time person. I would have never begun creating products out of my services. He does motion and web design. I said, you have to create a product out of that. Customization is for fools, man. You have to do the same thing over and over and over and over again for every single client. Well, every single client's different. Yeah, but the needs are the same. Even though they're different, their needs are going to be the same. Got that message? They love it. I mean, that is what I do. I come alongside and I don't just motivate them, but I lead them to action. Motivation is one thing, but action changes your life.
Yeah, totally. And they kind of come hand in hand usually too.
Yeah, man. Motivation just changes your mindset. I just got so fed up with all the motivation shows on Periscope with no action steps whatsoever, no follow-up. I was just like, man, motivation's for the birds. I can only get motivated so much before it's just this warm, fuzzy feeling that doesn't actually show up in my bank account. Like, motivation, fuzzy feelings doesn't put food on the table. Like, my kid, I'm working at home today. My kids just got home. That's not going to feed them tonight. I've actually got to earn income, earn money. Because if I don't, we're out on the street.
Right. Yeah. It's real.
It's very real. And that's the big difference, man. You want to talk about what advice would I give? Be serious. If you're doing this as a business, treat it as a business. If you're doing this as a hobby, okay, do whatever you want. But if it's a business, do not have a poverty mindset. So many people focus all of their attention and their energy on how they can prevent money from going out versus how to generate income coming in. It's this complete mind warp on, I'm not going to buy this tool. I'm not going to hire this coach. I'm not going to learn how to do this because I'm going to hold on to my money as much as I can. It's like, no, that's crap, man. Spend the money to learn how to do something, learn how to market yourself so that money comes in, not I'm going to hold on to my money and not spend anything. Like,
well, even more than that too, Dave, is I see a lot of people, they'll ask me to be like, hey, I've learned all this SEO. What if I just start working for people for free and then they pay me after they get results? And I'm like, don't do that. Don't ever do that, because look, you always have something to provide a value to people. The only time you should be giving away something for free is if they're giving something back to you in return.
Yeah, there's plenty of circumstances where doing work for less than what full price is can make sense. Now, I didn't do work for less than full price for what I'm about to share, but I did a job that I wouldn't normally do. I don't do video. All right. I get hired, or I get called to get hired to do video. I don't do video. I hate video. It steals my joy. It makes me hate my life. But there was somebody who called me who's a rock star, and I wanted to work with her. And she said, can you do this video for me? And I knew that if I did the video, I would hit it out of the park. She would love it. And there would be potential to work with her even further. So I'm in the middle of doing the video. Guess what? She loves it. Guess what? We hit it out of the park. Guess what? She's asking me, how can we work together in the future? I have to steer her away from video, but nonetheless, my whole point of taking the job turned out to be a good idea. So there's reasons why you would do something for trade, something for free, something at a discount. I can't tell you when or when you should not, but you have to be looking at, and here's another thing that I teach my students. How does the move that you're making right now lead to income? Now, it might be right now, but 5 or 6 steps down the road, it leads to income. That's fine. But you have to connect every single action you take to income. If you can't tell me how you spending time online searching SEO tools is going to help you generate income, then stop doing that. But if you can tell me how it's going to lead to income, awesome. Do it all day long if it's going to lead to income for your dream. You've got to fund the mission. And if you can't fund the mission, you're going to be out of business.
Yeah. And that's so huge too, is, people, they want to be nice people. They don't want to take advantage of people, which is, you shouldn't do that. But there's also to the point where you're being way too kind. You're not charging what you're worth. And then you're not actually able to help people as much because you're spending, all of your time trying to help one person because you only feel like you're worth a certain amount of money.
Yeah, man. That's the mindset of most of the people that I work with. They're amazing folks. They're uniquely gifted at what they do. They change people's lives. But when it comes to money, nobody ever taught them how to discuss money in business. They identify what they think is a fair wage for what they do. People try to talk them down. They feel weird sticking by their guns. Never mind the fact that the other person doesn't feel weird about asking them to put their guns down, right? So what I work on a lot of the times is just the mentality of online business, the mentality of your value, your worth, what it is that you're doing. And I talk them through online sales, and I talk them through getting what it is they're worth and creating systems and putting systems in place. There's something that I say to my clients. I say, look, if I can do something, I will do it. If I can't, I'll let you know. And so if they ask me to discount something, if I can do it, I'll say, you know what? You've done X, Y, Z. Let's make this work. This is going to be a win for both of us. But then I'll come back the next day and I'll be, you know what? This isn't, or with a different thing. And I'll say, you know what? I can't do that. That's just not going to allow me to be sustainable, turn a profit. You want me to be here to help you fix problems when they arise down the road. This is how I'm here. This is how I'm able to maintain it. So we work really hard with mentality. One little thing that I also tell them is you want to be honest and not modest. Honest about who you are and what you do is going to help a lot more people than being modest about what you do and how you help people. Somebody calls a plumber. You don't want a plumber who says, yeah, I think I can get that undone. I do an okay job. You want a plumber who says, yeah, no problem. I'll be there. We'll get it taken care of. It'll be unclogged in no time. That's what you want. And that's what you need to portray in your business.
Okay. So one of the questions I asked towards the end is so we already talked about the tools and, your brain is very important. But what do you specifically use in your own business, whether it be for reporting or for maybe getting people to a certain place? because there are a lot of tools that these people are interested in, and we are going to remind them that these aren't necessary. But what have you found that's helpful?
Well, I want to say something very quick about tools. Tools will only amplify the chaos or clarity that you put inside of them. If you've got no freaking idea what you're doing, your tool is going to amplify chaos, and it's just going to cause you to go around and around and around and around, not getting anything done. If you're absolutely clear on what it is you're trying to accomplish, you'll know exactly which tool to use, and that tool will amplify that clarity. It will help increase your productivity. I can't tell anybody else what they should be using. That said, I'll tell you what I use. We have clearly defined what it is we use each tool for. So for project management, we use Asana. We don't use it for conversation. We don't use it for sending messages back and forth to one another unrelated to a specific task. We use it for individual tasks, and the only conversation that we have in the comment section on any given task is for that specific task and action points. That's it. For conversation and for general dialogue, and when we're trying to work things out, we use Slack. We don't send email. We don't send text messages. We don't send Facebook messages. We don't work in Asana. We use Slack 100% of the time to dialogue and have conversation. When it comes to emergencies, we send text messages for emergencies. So I don't ever go in and send my teammate a text message unless it's one of those deals where I need your attention right now. If I do that all the time, then it's not going to be important. But if I only do it when it's most important, he's going to see that or she's going to see that, and she'll be like, I got to take care of this right now. Dave wouldn't text me unless it was important. So Slack, Asana, those are the primary two things that we use. We do use Google Apps, and we keep everything in Google Apps. We don't use Microsoft Word or Evernote or any of these other tools, Pages, Keynote, anything like that. We use Google Apps. Everything stays in there. And so the clearer you are on what you're trying to do, the easier it is for you to find tools that allow you to accomplish that. And once you find tools that allow you to accomplish it, you have to set standards for what you're going to actually do, or else you're going to be searching in Microsoft Word and Pages and Google Docs and Evernote and Dropbox and all these other places trying to find documents because you have no system in place.
Right. Cool, man. Well, if they want to find out more about this, you were telling me before that you're coming out with this podcast, so maybe you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I've wanted to do a podcast for a long time. I really had to step back and reimagine what a podcast would need to look like in order for it to add value to a market space that's already crowded. One, there's no other me out there. So I know that that's going to have a particular spot because there's nobody else out there like me. And if somebody digs my voice, well, the only place they can go to it is my podcast. But that said, I didn't want it to just be another stream of just an interview and that was it. So what I've done is I've actually begun putting a podcast together that is focused 100% on getting you to monetize immediately. So if you have not made any money online, the hope is that in every single episode of the podcast, there is going to be one value in there that you can immediately apply and put into practice to start generating income online. Much like Gary Vee at the time of this recording has done his eBay flip challenge, where he's challenging people to go out to yard sales, buy stuff, and then go flip it on eBay for twice, 3 times, 4 times what they paid for it. It's going to be very similar to that. Maybe not as prescriptive as that, but the hope is that it will get your mentality out of this planning hobby stage and into a mode of, if I'm going to be a business, I've got to start earning income. Here's how I can do it right away. So you can find that when it launches on my website, daveshrein.com, and there will be plenty of announcements there because I'm a marketer and I try to make sure that people see the things that I have to market. So,
and I'll also leave a link to that in the description if you guys want to check it out. Cool, man. Well, I think that's pretty good for now. I really appreciate you coming on here and talking about all that great stuff. So,
yeah, man, I'm always excited to talk about great stuff.
Right on. Cool. Well, thanks for stopping by, and I know my viewers really appreciate it. So thanks again once more.
Awesome.
All right, man.